So that song always brings me peace. You know, you could have a Saturday morning when you went out and did your shopping at the market and nobody would hassle you or threaten you. And now comes Saturday morning, I guess you got to worry about being arrested just for doing the most basic of things here in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. I welcome back to the program, been a guest here many times over the years to share her story, Christine Solem, a local farmer and advocate for food freedom, and we've talked about those issues over the years. Today, arrested at the behest of a local establishment. And this is great because we talked yesterday after you'd been arrested, and I'm so glad you called me, and it reminds me of some years ago when Louis Schultz was being arrested on his own property for trying to defend his property, and I was down there with the camera, and the first call he made from jail, and I'm glad you didn't have to call me from jail, was here on the air. So anyway, Christine Solem, thank you for joining us today on the Schilling Show.
Well, thank you for wanting to listen. Yes, I was arrested. 3 misdemeanor warrants for trespass from Whole Foods Market for being in their market without permission and not having a mask on. I am medically exempt, and I don't have to tell anyone what it is, nor do I have to carry any papers around, because Whole Foods Market is in Charlottesville, not Albemarle County, so that was something good. However, each misdemeanor warrant was first-class misdemeanor. That's a year in jail and or a $2,500 fine. And the policemen were really nice. They came into my home, and I had been going into Whole Foods Market since, I guess, well, I've gone there for years, but I went in since the pandemic, in quotation marks, started, and the governor's executive order came out that you had to wear a mask in public place, but that there was exemption for medical reasons. So I've been going in, and I'm claiming medical reasons, and I've been going into Whole Foods Market since, with that executive order in place since about June. That was executive order number 63. Now we're up to executive order number 72, but the language is still there about the medical exemption. And increasingly, they've gotten a little more pressuring on me, like at the door, and I'd have to say, no, I don't have to have a mask, I'm medically exempt. So that's been going on, but getting increasingly a little more pressure. And one woman asked me if I had a card, and I said, no, I don't need it because this is in the city, this market. And so around Christmas time, then I was approached by one person. He looked more authoritative, and I told him I had a medical exemption. He kind of looked funny. And then a couple of weeks later, he said, well, you can't shop here anymore. He said, you can come in and shop, but we're not going to check you out.
And now this is very strange because I'm trying to figure the logic in. We're concerned because you don't have a mask on, and you can come in and I guess ostensibly you could stay all day long. We just won't check you out. You would think they'd want you to come in and get out as soon as possible, which is exactly the opposite of what he's telling you.
It didn't make any sense. What? Yeah. And I had a friend with me, so I put all my stuff in his cart, and we went around blowing germs or whatever.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we got to the cashier, and she wouldn't check me out. And so I said, well, okay, I'll put it in his friend's basket. And he checked it. Mm-hmm. And then we left. Well, the next time I came in, and I've been in about 6 times since then because I refused. I mean, I've been getting in. I have a good faith reason to buy and come buy things. And Whole Foods is open to the public. So I went in again, and then he said, well, we can arrest you for shoplifting. You can't check out. And I said, I threw, $40 down on the counter, and I said, I'm leaving. And he took my picture, he took my car's picture, and I said, call the police. If you think that you're right, call the police. And he said, well, I will. And I don't know if he did or not, but anyway, he took my.
We should clarify that when you put the money down, $40, it was well in excess of what the goods were. So you were paying for the goods and then some.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's in my mind. Now I'm not for sure, but I know I didn't have a standing rib roast in my car and like that. So, and ensuing times, it's gotten worse. I had to put down more money to make sure I had enough, and I was afraid they wouldn't let me at the door. I had a friend come in to witness some of the harassment. I call it harassment because they would not let go. And I kept saying, call the police. We'll get it in court. I want to get it in court. Well, to make a long story short, they got me a letter from Whole Foods attorney in Austin, Texas, saying that they would arrest me for trespass and that I couldn't speak to anyone in the store about this matter. Well, I didn't go for that. So I wrote back a letter, and I said, I told them all was wrong. I told them about the governor's executive order and quoted it and so on. And then I said, if you think that I am incorrect, then respond by January 23rd, and he has not responded. And I said, otherwise, I will assume that I'm correct. Well, I want to say a couple of things about the employees in the store. They were very nice. They looked like they were being put upon. I felt really sorry for them. I mean, somebody up in the clouds in the big Whole Foods store in the heaven is probably saying, you know, you got to do this. And I have been in that store for years, and to treat me like that is terrible. And finally I said, take it to court. Well, I didn't get bothered the last time I went in. They were actually opening and closing the door, too. One time I had to force the door open.
You mean controlling entry?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so finally, yesterday I went in, and the only thing they did is they wouldn't check me out. But I threw some more money on the counter and went on out, and I thought, well, maybe it's getting better, because they didn't have the door opening and closing. And then that afternoon the police showed up, and the police were very nice. They were really very, very nice. And I had to go down to the magistrate, and he had to arrest me and take me down there. But I made arrangements to get back home, and that was all done. And they did a mug shot. They fingerprinted me, and I got released on bond. And I have to appear in court on Friday to get the real court date set. But there are 3 misdemeanors. If they wanted to be Mr. Goodbar, why couldn't they give me 1 misdemeanor for trespass? They have no case on that. That's ridiculous. I had a good faith belief that I was not breaking the law, and I had a right to be there because they're open to the public. Their argument is, well, if you go into a restaurant, they could say no shirt, no shoes, no service. But there's no law in Virginia on shirts and shoes and so on. Whole Foods is licensed in Virginia. It's open to the public. There is a law in Virginia on requiring face masks, and there's an exemption to that law. That is the law they should be under. So we'll see what happens in court. I did want to go in court. I was kind of overwhelmed with the number of misdemeanors that I got. But somebody's got to stop this sort of thing. This isn't right.
It isn't right, and it's interesting in kind of looking over your paperwork, and I don't have a lawyer's eye because I'm not a lawyer, but there's also sorts of strange things on there. You know, it's sent to Albemarle County, acknowledged receipt by Albemarle County, even though you were in Charlottesville and you were arrested by Charlottesville police. There's incorrect court dates on the paperwork. It just appears very hastily done, as if people were kind of confused about it in the first place. So I've got to ask you, just to clarify, that you do have legal representation, and you don't have to say if you don't want to who it is, but I want people to know you're not going this alone. You've got somebody who's going to be alongside of you in all this.
No, I do have a lawyer. I don't know if he wants me to say his name or not, so I won't.
You don't have to. Yeah, we don't have to do that.
But I have done civil work before with goat's milk and so on, and I haven't done criminal work. And it was interesting. I had to get into the car and driven all down, and people were very nice, though, very nice, the police. But I think they realized that I wasn't a really hardened criminal. But anyway.
Well, isn't it? It's so sad. And we're talking with Christine Solem, who was arrested at the direction of Whole Foods and given 3 Class 1 misdemeanors, which I guess would be up to $7,500 and up to 3 years in jail. If they'd all...
No, it's a year in... I see you're combining all 3.
Well,
yes,
they
right.
gave you 3, so
right,
I'm assuming that's where it could lead. And it's so ridiculous. You know, there's people doing a lot worse things, as if this were bad at all, but a lot worse things who are getting let off the hook right and left in this day and age. And for them to drop the hammer on you is really, really unfortunate.
Well, in their defense, I said, take it to court.
Right.
But 3 of them?
Well, that's why I mean by dropping the hammer. Yeah. They could have done something a little lighter than that, but they chose not to. So in your perspective, you know, other people, and I talked about this at the beginning of the program, you heard what I had to say, but a lot of other people, they probably are fully aligned with you, but they're just not willing. And I'd like you to at least give them some encouragement why you're doing this, because it's not just for you, is it?
Well, I can't sit by and see something that's not right. And this isn't right. This curtails my liberty so terribly. Like, so we'll do curbside service. I don't want that. I don't want home delivery. I want to go there. I don't have time for all this. And if you just stand up for your rights, but it's not easy. I mean, the tension is terrible, but it's just something I have to do. I guess I was born that way. I don't know. A gene or...
I'm glad that you were, and there are others like you. I'll never forget your late husband, John Coles, and I remember his tussle in the farmer's market. and they wanted to stop him from selling goat cheese, as I recall, because it wasn't properly regulated by the state. And he said, you know what? I'm just going to give it away. Here's a little donation basket. And he basically thumbed his nose at the establishment. And I was so proud of him and you for doing that. And I think, you're carrying on here in the same way. This is ridiculous. And it just takes a good person to stand up. Otherwise, evil prevails.
Well, our liberty on that issue, these masks, no, that's a person's choice.
Absolutely.
I'm taking advantage of a loophole here, but that doesn't mean if the loophole wasn't there, that maybe I would challenge it on constitutional grounds. This is just overkill, and it's gotten people so frightened, they're scared to death of each other.
And we've encouraged, unfortunately, what I would call the snitch society now here in Albemarle County, where they have these ambassadors and they have phone numbers for you to call in and report other people. And I know you don't do computers and social media, but I've seen it on Neighborhood and Facebook, where if somebody walks into a store, they'll get on there and say, oh, I was in this store today and I saw someone without a mask, and everyone needs to call the health department and report them. It's really sickening. This is what we saw taking place not only in China, but in Eastern Europe, and it leads to a very bad place.
That's right. Well, it's not only that. The masks are just a foil for the vaccines.
Absolutely.
You get people used to the mask.
Yes.
And then you get them forced to take the vaccine.
It's the first
another thing
step.
is
Yes.
the scarcity of the vaccine makes the people want it more. It's the psychology of it just really bothers me.
It's contrived. Christine Solem, we're just about out of time, but I do want to thank you for coming in today.
Well, thank you for having me.
I particularly want to thank you for standing up, because not many people are willing to do that. Will you please keep us posted?
I will. I hope it will be from jail.
Okay. Well, you call here first,
Okay.
and we'll bring you a pizza over there or something. Okay.
Thank you.